Chief, what's cracking? You working or what? Alright, Juan, I have oh, I like this music.
Don't be vlogging me shirtless, man. You showing off the gains.
Come on, dude. Show him. Dude, let's put up a before and after picture, should we? Dude, so check this out. I have a name for people that tap into the YouTube. For the team, I think it's only right that we give them a name, right? I keep saying, what's up, YouTube? You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking to the platform. I'm trying to think of a name, and I thought of the Incubates.
The Incubates.
Yeah, the Incubates. Have you ever had the science project where in school where you take like an egg home and then you put it in an incubate to become like a real chicken or chick?
Not in my school. We'll skip that one.
Honestly, I think I skipped that one too. But, right, what is the definition of an incubator? Why do we start the e-com incubator?
The incubator is meant to take someone who knows absolutely nothing about e-commerce and put them through this intensive training and get them fully prepared and equipped. It's like when you take a troop or soldier, you send him to the army.
That's right.
He's going there, he's getting all the training, learning all the tactical, all the strategies, the game plans, learning how to shoot the rifle,
boom,
how to snipe, all that. You know what I'm saying? How to clean the weapon, how to dismantle it, how to fight, everything, right?
All right.
So you can think about the e-com incubator as sending someone to the army.
That's right.
Right, getting prepared for war.
Yep.
Send them to an incubator to get prepared for the e-commerce space, to build their own business, their own brand, and 10x. Because right now, e-commerce, baby, is on the rise.
Listen, I'm gonna leave Juan here alone because he put it best as possible, all right? Business is war, e-commerce is war. Okay, my hair right now looks like war. And that's why I gotta go get a haircut. But Juan couldn't have put it any better, honestly. So the e-com incubator is about coming in as the average individual that is kind of lost in the world, that doesn't really have any certainty in their game plan, in their future. And you're looking for, you know, a group of people, a community, an army to belong to and become a savage with, all right? So make sure you tap in, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification. As Serge in the building, he's gonna clean me up. Yes, sir. Oh, let's do it. So I'm just getting to the crib. I mean, I got my hair cut. Still, you know, I still gotta clean it up or whatever, but hold on, wait.
Okay.
Hold on, that still look kind of fire. Mo got a new cut.
The Miami way.
Say it again.
Ya tú sabes.
Cucaracha. No, is it cucaracha? Oh, shit. Look at
Come
that.
on, Jay. It's over. You know what I'm saying?
Now, yeah, I'm gonna need y'all to go down there, go to the comments, and give Mo a thumbs up.
That shit, fuck, watch. Tossing that shit. Why? What are you supposed to...
Alright, my fellow incubates, welcome on over to today's video. Got something a little bit different. Juan and I don't think we've recorded a video for either of our YouTube channels for like a little while now, right?
It's been a while.
It has, right?
While, yeah.
We recorded one for the OnlyFans, I know that, last week. But I wanted to interview you, dude. You know, Juan and I started our e-commerce journey together back in 2017 or 18, I believe.
Sounds about right.
We were doing door-to-door sales. We did door-to-door sales together for like a year and a half, and we became really close. We worked well together. And ideally, you know, Juan was testing out. I was doing, I think, like affiliate marketing or SMMA or something like that. And then Juan was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try out this e-commerce thing, this Shopify thing. So he got going, he built his store, and then I kind of tapped in. I was like, hey, you know, I want to work with you on this, right? I want to help out with the marketing, the Facebook ads. That's really, that was one thing that I was focusing on before. But anyways, we started going with e-commerce, and we started off, what, drop shipping, right? And obviously, you know, that really gave us a breakthrough in the e-commerce space. But long story short, after a year and a half of drop shipping or 2 years of drop shipping, we realized that we had to level up to the next level, right? We had to take things up a notch, kick it up a notch. And that's when we started learning about branding, what branding really means. You know, how does branding actually help you create a sustainable e-commerce business rather than the dropshipping stores we were building that, you know, kind of have that bell curve, right? type of forecast. Like you start, it goes really, really good. Then when we get to the peak and it's time to scale, like no customers wanted to come back and buy again. So I wanted to interview Juan here on what e-commerce branding really means to you, right? And I'm sitting on this fucking chair here. Hold on, maybe it'd be better if we.
Yeah. So obviously we've been in this journey for quite some time, and there's no doubt that ever since the beginning, it's all been a learning experience. So honestly, one of the things that I do want to bring up as a little bit of preface is that I really do wish that we would have been exposed to understanding the power behind branding a lot sooner. We had to start our entire e-commerce journey with, well, first off, we had to start off scrappy, right? So we started off only knowing about drop shipping. That's the main thing that we were doing. That's the main type of business model that we were running from, right from the beginning, right? And it wasn't probably until a year and a half, maybe 2 years after, that we actually started getting exposed to branding and what the power of branding can have, or not have, but what the power of branding can do to a brand. And so I really do wish that we had someone earlier on to kind of really enforce this on us, or just really explain the value, because now, fast forward now, the only thing that we want to do is figure out how to take products and build brands around them, right? We already went through the painful and costly experience of just only trying to drop ship products. Nothing wrong with drop shipping, obviously that's how we got started, so we're super grateful to have had that opportunity. But the game of consistently chasing new products, right, every 6 to 8 months, that's a true grind. That's a true grind.
And new customers, not just new products, but new customers.
Yeah, chasing new customers every 6 to 8 months, new products. That's a grind. And so one of the things to factor in is that when it comes to branding, right now, the e-commerce space has been evolving nonstop, especially with this whole pandemic. It's basically just accelerated the e-commerce space. There's crazy statistics where just within the last 6 months, e-commerce has accelerated more than within the last few years, right? I don't know the specifics, so don't quote me on it, but
isn't there a chart that you?
There is a chart. Yeah, you can probably put it up.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to see that, but even before the pandemic, I had already thought that the e-commerce space had evolved so much, just because when you look around now, now people have a lot of options when it comes to buying things online, right? There's no longer a shortage of places to buy things. So I think that the value of understanding what a brand does to a certain product is it's really important for people to know, because it's a tough game to just be to just find a product and just try to drop ship it without an actual strategy. So there's a couple things to factor in when it comes to branding that we've learned. And really, one is, when it comes to branding, it allows you to take a product and turn it into more than what it actually is, right? We've seen we're seeing now brands being built from commodity products. One of the funniest brands that I see that's a great example is there's a brand called Bippy, and they focus on making the buying experience and the buying process of toilet paper into a really cool experience. So they focus on having eco-friendly toilet paper, right, which not everybody buys or uses, but they just created a market out of toilet paper. So as funny as that may sound, it's a good example, because now you have the opportunity to do that. Before, people would just try to only sell a specific product until they could, and then they would just pivot. Yep. Now you can do the same, but instead of having to pivot, you can put a little bit more effort in, a little bit more time in, and you can actually turn it into a lot more than just a commodity product.
How does the Warren Buffett quote go? Buy commodities and sell brands, right?
Yep.
Because he does it with Coca-Cola, where they buy water and sugar pretty much, and then they're selling the Coca-Cola brand, really. And so, dude, let's kick off this interview. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, because you're mentioning a lot of things I wanted to ask you about. First of all right. So question number one: before we actually dove into branding and really started, looking up different authors and professors, and there isn't much on YouTube or on Google about branding besides name, brand, or name, logo, website, colors, right? So what was branding to you before we really dove into it, right? What did branding mean to you before we studied what branding actually really is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, honestly, I didn't have much of an understanding of what branding really was. Like, I had a vague understanding, like knowing, like, okay, well, the first thing that comes to mind is like logo, color schemes, taglines, simple things like that. I had no idea how in depth branding actually goes into, and all the key components that there is that we've learned now, like brand identity, language, tonality, color schemes, text, like all these different things. I had absolutely no idea, and I still think that obviously there's so much more to learn about branding because again how things are evolving, and especially now like in the times that we're in. But when we first got started, I had a very basic understanding of branding, like very, very basic.
So you thought, again, just like, I mean, I can definitely relate to that. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. I thought the same thing. Branding was logo, brand, maybe like a little brand mascot, like a Ronald McDonald or like a Coca-Cola bear or something. But yeah, I could definitely relate. And again, I think a lot of people on here can relate as well. Okay, so that was the first one. Second one was, second question is, what gave you the biggest breakthrough, or what gave you a breakthrough to know what branding really means? Or let me rephrase that question. So question number 2 is, Juan, what gave you that breakthrough to start really understanding what branding really means? Was it a book? Was it a video? Was it a mentor? What was it? A video, blog post?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it was a combination of things. So, one of the first points of references that you first pointed out, I think, was a big help, which was that college professor David Ocker. He has a lot of great insights. I'd highly recommend for you guys to kind of look him up and learn more about him. But he basically has taken a lot of time to study a lot of the best brands that have been around for decades, and that's all he's done. So he just basically studies brands. And so that one was actually a pretty good point of reference. I dove deep onto him, his talks, and his books. I actually got one over there. And that really opened things up for me. And then the next thing I started doing is that in these books, or in like some of his articles, they would reference like different resources that you can check out. So like, for example, Toyota, they have their entire brand guide on their website, so you can actually go and check to see like everything from sizing of the fonts, specific headlines they use, their brand tonality that they use across all their messaging, the sizing of their images for specific reasons, different types of logos they have. All this
they leave nothing up to guesswork. Like if you just join their marketing team,
everything is
nothing up for guesswork.
Everything is there's almost no way that you couldn't follow the brand consistency, because everything's already laid out everything, sizing. As soon as you try to, if you had any task to have to make anything, any type of creative campaign, anything, you literally have like an exact playbook of different tools and resources to use to make sure that you're following the brand guidelines. And that was one of I think that the best resource that I've probably used has been for sure his talks, books, and then just like going in and like learning more about seeing different brands and like the brand guides that they have. Looking at Coca-Cola has a really good one, AT&T, and there's a lot of different brands. Those are just two of like the ones that I saw that I remember looking at the internet and looking at how in depth it was. It was like 50 pages plus of like all these different brand guidelines to follow. So for me that was pretty insightful, because then I can take all the information he provided through his books and his talks, and then I can actually see it, how it's been put into place by these brands. So I like to learn by hearing people talk about strategies, methodologies, but I also like to be able to see things in reality and put into place. And so those two were really helpful for me personally to really get a good grasp of branding and seeing it And so now anywhere I go, whenever we come across any brands, it's like that's the first thing I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing now it gets easier because now you can start looking at trends and consistencies within it. But yeah, those two resources or that combination of resources.
So David Acker.
I
could definitely relate to that because I remember when we first came across him, it was like, holy fuck, like, wow, this is branding. All right, so this leads me to my third question, which is, Juan, what do you think is the most important concept of branding, right? There's a bunch of things that you just named, like voice, tonality, purpose, value props, right? What is the most important concept when it comes to branding? For all the incubators that are watching, that are trying to really grasp onto that one main thing to take away from this video, what is the one concept that's really kind of made things click for you when it comes to branding?
Yeah, that's a great question also. I would say that one of the most important things for sure is, I think, is consistency. Consistency across everything, right? Whether it be across the messaging, across color schemes, texture, pattern. Like, the biggest thing when it comes to brands is, and again, we've already gone through this a couple times, like, one of the first things that I think everybody should do before starting any brand is spend a lot of time, creating a brand guide, or at least some kind of like, what did you call it? Like the board? What do you call it?
Brand style guide.
Mood board. Yeah. At
like
least some kind of like mood board to get ideas for the brand. I think that's something, again, we've never done. When we first got started, never did it. Nobody ever told us to do it.
Yeah.
So I think fast forward now, I think it's the first thing that should be done before launching any brand because it makes everything else a lot easier. I think that now where we are now in the state of e-commerce and like the way that consumer behavior is going, it's like people like to see consistency, right? People like to see that, okay, well, if you're using a certain type of communication on social media, well, they expect to see that similar communication on your website. If you're taking pictures a certain way on your social media, vice versa on your website.
Yeah.
If you're using certain logos, color schemes on your site, well, people are probably going to expect to see that on your ads, on your emails. And so I think one of the biggest things when it comes to branding is really consistency. And like it at first, it may not be the easiest thing because sometimes it's a little bit tricky to like understand like, okay, well, what kind of let's say ad copy is going to work the best towards the audience. How do I make sure that my ad copy still resonates with the brand? Like doing these things is not easy by any means because you have to have experience. It takes honestly consistency to get better at developing a consistent tone of voice. Without doing it over and over again, you can't really get good at it. And so if there's one thing that I think is like really important when it comes to branding, it's really consistency.
I couldn't agree more. I think as Charlie Munger, right, Warren Buffett's business partner, and his famous the 25 psychological biases talk he did in I think it was in Stanford, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. He talks about the consistency bias, and if there is no consistency, then that creates an alert. It creates fear because if somebody's gonna buy something from you, or let's just say, let's use this example, right? Let's say you're looking up a Target on your Google Maps, right? The Target pops up. You go to this actual address, and then all of a sudden, instead of seeing a Target sign, you see a Walmart sign, right? And then you're like, what the fuck is this? Then you walk in, you're like, whatever, Walmart. Okay, sure, they might have what I need. Then you walk inside Walmart, and all of a sudden, it's like an Amazon store. And you're like, whoa, hold on. Like, this is super sketchy. I'm headed out. Maybe another good example is something that we faced is when a customer buys from us, and this is when we were still streamlining our consistency across the board. Somebody buys something from us and then they inquire about their order, and all of a sudden they're getting a completely different tonality from our customer service. They're like, they contact us back on our Instagram and say, hey, like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm contacting your support on your email or on your store chat, and they're not really helping us out. And it wasn't the fact that they weren't helping them out. It's just that they weren't approaching with the same tonality, the same voice as they see on our website and on our ad. So it creates an alert. They might want to cancel their order. So we had to really dive in and kind of carry that brain voice, that brain tonality across to our customer service, to our emails.
That would be a problem.
Yeah, I think we oh, because it counts down. God. Fourth question, right? We're on fourth question now. The camera kind of cut off there, but fourth question for you, Juan, is what was one of the biggest mistakes you made when it comes to branding, or we made when we started really branding and trying to implement, what branding really means to our e-commerce brands and our e-commerce stores?
Well, to be honest, as funny as it might be, I think the biggest mistake we made was not being consistent enough.
Yeah.
We realized like the effect that, well, the reason I say that is because now one of the things that I do personally, and I'm sure you probably do too, is I spend a lot of time like researching some of the best e-commerce brands, right? The best way to learn if you want to do anything, the best way to learn is to find the best and learn from the best. So one of the things that I do now is I spend a lot of time researching different brands and going through and looking through all these different things, right? Looking through, okay, what's their brand tone of voice? Are they using the same tone of voice on social media, their website, their emails, their text messages? Okay, clearly we were not doing all those. So that if we weren't doing that and these guys are and all the other brands are, well, there's a clear sign that this is very important. Same thing with content. Was our content consistent? And it wasn't. And so I think that was one of the biggest mistakes for sure that we made. But it all stems from back in time where we didn't really have any tools or resources that highlighted the importance of branding. Like even up to date, actually, if you go on YouTube, like people talk about branding, but nobody stresses the importance of it. And usually, like a lot of these bigger e-commerce players, like
kind of don't want you to know.
Yeah, I mean, they're just not like, that's just not their thing. Like sharing all these things are not their thing, and so you kind of have to go out and like really dig for this information. It just takes time, and like what we want to do is help shorten the learning curve for you guys by helping you guys learn from our mistakes. But that our mistakes just go back from from the beginning, from just not having any type of resources to learn from.
Juan, do you think that branding is more of a visual thing or more of a underlying psychological, like subconscious, or preeminent, like it's just like a vibe, like it's not really something you can touch or grab? It's like
I honestly really like now that, again, because even I'm still personally like learning about branding day by day, I think it's a really good combination of both.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's some things that you can physically see, like that's easy, but then there's other things that they're not as clear cut to see. Like usually you don't notice. Usually you don't. For example, like tonality. Like tonality, unless you spent time like going through and like going through multiple. Let's say, for example, if you want to find out what kind of brand personality a brand has, you usually have to go through a few different posts and on their website and like do a decent amount of reading to get a grasp of that. You can't just go and say, oh, this brand is this is a serious up-class brand.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there are some brands, because of consistency, like let's say Rolls-Royce. We don't even have to try to learn about Rolls-Royce to know that they're an upper-class brand, because they've had that consistency over time, and that's just who they are. But when you're trying to learn more about a brand that you don't know about, that hasn't been around for that long, maybe a little bit newer, there's some things that, again, they'll be clear-cut, but there are some things that you won't be able to easily recognize. And I think that that's why branding isn't easy.
Yeah,
right? It isn't easy because there's going to be things that you want you're going to want your brand to come across as like this persona, but it takes time to really develop that persona. There's different things you have to do, and not everything is as easy as just like just showing it, right? Because, for example, like not to go too deeper on this, but or too deep, David Ocker talks about like brand associations, right?
Yeah.
And the effect of like what associating your brand with positive things, like let's say certain organizations, like let's say you associating your brand with like some kind of charity, right? That's less about like that's something that you can't really like see the value and impact of it on like by looking at it on the first day.
Yeah.
This is something that, you know, because people see that, okay, you obviously have great products, you have great service, your marketing is great, and you also are involved in these charitable acts and, you know, with charities, then they'll end up liking you. But this isn't something where like it's as easy as, okay, these guys, they're involved with this organization, great, right? It's something that
makes them feel a certain way, like,
amplifies.
oh, this brand supports the same kind of cause that I would support. So
Exactly.
when I'm buying from them, it makes them feel better about that purchase, because if they bought from your competitor, they wouldn't get the feeling of, hey, I'm also supporting this cause here.
Exactly.
So that's like the idea of, it's not something visual. Like, they can see it on your website, but they
the
feel
effect,
better when they're making that purchase.
Yeah.
So this leads to the last question here, is my favorite definition of branding is that a brand is the reflection of the ideal self-image of the customer. Okay, I'll repeat that. I said this multiple times on videos, but a brand is a reflection of the ideal self-image. Juan, what does that mean to you?
So what that means to me, and again, this is just by what I've learned so far, is customers want to buy from brands that they can relate to, right? Brands that, you know, like they feel like is someone they know, something they know. So you'll notice one of the most important things that you'll notice is if you take a step back and you look at the top 2 or 3 brands that you buy from the most, and this is for all you guys watching, if you just think about it, well, there's a reason why you consistently buy from these brands, right? There's gonna be, if you think about it, there's gonna be similarities. They're either gonna have influencers that you like that wear or support the brands or are ambassadors of the brands. They're gonna have some kind of they're gonna be associated with things that you also like almost all the time.
Such as causes that you support?
Yeah. Like a good example is like Nike, right? Like I would say it's very rare for any male, like millennial males, right, to not like Nike as a brand.
Yeah.
They associate with all of the world's most top performing athletes, right, and celebrities. They associate themselves with great causes. They obviously make really good products, right? They also they know that ideally, like, their demographic is like majority. I'm not sure their exact statistics, but I'm pretty sure they're going after millennials. Like at least a good portion of their market is millennials, and so they make products that are modern, right, upbeat for millennials. If you look at their ads, they're not showing ads with elderly people. And if they are, it may be a specific angle they're going for, but a majority of their ads are hosting people that look like millennials, right? People that look like the customers they're attracting. So I think my understanding is that, again, we buy from brands that we like and we can relate to, and I think that's gonna be a thing that people should start to build with, right? Like, you should think about this when you're trying to build your brand, is like, how can you make your brand relate to your ideal customer in every way possible, whether it be with the models that you have showing your products, whether it be who you associate your brand with, all these different things. Because again, the one thing to factor in is like where the e-commerce space is, and like where the this whole market is, right? Now that people have options, well, think about it. Would you buy from someone that you absolutely don't relate to and you don't really care for, or would you buy from a brand that you can relate to? They do a lot of the things that you like and you're into, and like you can see yourself in that brand. Like, I
mean, let's think about it. It's the same, like the people that we buy from is kind of like the same thing that, or the brands that we buy from is the same concept as the people we hang out with, right? Like, we are naturally gravitated towards the people that are like us.
Yes.
Right? People that dress like us, have similar interests, have similar goals maybe, or no goals. Right? If you have no goals, you might be attracted to people that have no goals as well, because they're fucking bums. You can be bumming with them. At the same time, you're, people that use the same, follow the same celebrities, like the same music, all these things, right? The list goes on and on and on. And so for a brand, the idea of a reflection of the ideal self-image, it's like, in order for you to become that brand that is
a reflection of the customer's ideal self-image, you have to really study who the customer is. So, for example, Apple, you know, their headline is think different, right? So who is that attracting? People, is it for the laggards, right? If we're talking about the 5 chasms, right? Is that what it's called? The 5 chasms of marketing?
I think it's, the crossing the chasm.
Yeah, from that book, Crossing the Chasm. They're not looking for the laggards, right? People that are just kind of want to double down on the same boring thing that they can get from a bunch of different brands. They're an innovative company that thinks different. So they are attracting the early adopters, the innovators, the people that really are open to different things, right? And ideally, they're you know, you can even see from the first ad, you know, that famous ad where like people like the robots walking around and stuff like that. I guess the point I'm trying to make is like Apple makes it very clear who they're going at. They're not going for the boring people that don't like innovation, that don't like new things. They are aiming for people that think different, that accept change, that like innovation. And they double down on that all the way. So the key is to become, for your brain to be a reflection of the ideal self-image. Wouldn't you agree that you have to really study who that customer is to build up that brain image, that brain voice, that brain tonality, that pick the right purpose, the right colors, the right headline, you know, the right influencers to work with. Because, you know, when we were first starting off, we were just kind of shotgunning everything. It's like we just, as we go, we're just like, ooh, like let's put this person in there. Ooh, let's work with this influencer. And then when you look back at it after a couple months of all the building you've done, you're like, holy cow, this is not consistent at all. I don't even know who this brand was for, this store is meant for. And if you don't even know, then the customers will be like, hey. So it's the idea of like trying to sell to everyone versus end up selling to no one, versus really pinpointing who you're trying to sell for. Even though it's a lot smaller of an audience, if you study them, if you understand them better than they understand themselves, then you can create a brand that can really just plug right in, just be one of them, and they're gonna want to hang out with that brand and be loyal to that brand because it's just like them. It listens to the same music, talks the same way, uses the same vocabulary, supports the same purposes, and all that good stuff. So I think we're coming down here on like 30-minute mark or 40-minute mark, but I guess the last question. Yeah, last question for you would be like, what is the one tip you leave people on here? Make it 30-second tip.
Honestly, the last tip I would say is really goes down to the last part you actually just mentioned, because we didn't talk about that, is before you can actually get started on building your brand guide or your brand or anything, you want to spend a decent amount of time really understanding who your ideal customer is, right? Understanding everything from a demographic, age group, interest, you know, everything, like really have a full grasp, like to the detail, because I do think that that'll help you a lot when it comes to building your brand guide, all that great stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's something that again, even we work on, and we dedicate a decent amount of time to research, and that in this space, in the e-commerce space, when it comes to anything that has a massive impact on your brand or your store, it really involves research, right? Like before you build a store or before you build the brand, you need to have the product. Yeah. What do you do to find the product? You need to research. So it's the same thing with the brand guide.
And that's the boring part, right? The research is the boring part, because that's like not sexy at all. To just be sitting there researching, studying all these different opportunities or different products and how to find your opportunity zone. Like people want to skip that and just launch, fam. You know, just like launch it. You know, so it's like, hey, even though that's not the sexy, the most exciting part, that's what's gonna make the launch work even better, because you're gonna know who the fuck you're trying to sell to, who they are, what they like, how, you know, they like to buy, etc., etc. So I couldn't agree more, honestly. Now, with that being said, if you are looking to start and launch your own e-commerce brand, or maybe you're struggling with your current e-commerce business, maybe you're trying to transition from drop shipping and level up to actually building e-commerce brands that are sustainable for the long term and, more importantly, scalable for the long term, then check out a free case study we put together for you below. Okay, literally show you how everything we talked about here was a brand style guide, how to create consistency across all different distribution channels, how to find your opportunity zone. All right, so check it out. It's absolutely free. Now, if you've been following us for a while and you're like, hey, how do I tap in? How do I get you guys to help me out one-on-one? How do I work with your team and be able to kind of cut my learning curve by 10x and just really cut to the chase and have you guys help me with my brand style guide, my brand voice, my brand purpose, create that congruency across all the board, then I highly recommend you schedule a call with one of our coaches. Okay, his name's Mo. We're gonna get you in touch with him. He's gonna make sure you're a good fit, you're at the right place, you got the money first of all. Okay, if you don't have anywhere from 3 to 5K, we're not gonna be able to hop on a call with you every single week and really give you everything we got, because you're not gonna be able to invest in your products, in the different resources we would recommend for you. So you got to have some cash in the bank to be able to, or at least a consistent stream of income to be able to build a brand and, move quickly. Just check it out. Okay, go in the description, find what's right for you and how we can help you out, how we can be part of your success. But until then, peace out. Or go follow Juan, by the way. I guess it's only going to give my boy a shout out here. So I'll put his Instagram here below, or fucking find him on my Instagram or whatever it is. All right, peace out. We're out of here. This has been a good one.